Housing is at the center of our economic troubles, so let's talk about that. But the way we talk about it is usually not very useful. The foreclosures, short sales, upside down mortgages, forget that a moment. They're just symptoms of the real problem. The problem is we have too many empty houses. So take single family houses. The long run average is about 1.5% of them are vacant at any time. And that vacancy is one family moves out, it's going to be a few weeks before another family moves in. But at the height of the building boom, we got up to 3% vacancy instead of 1.5%. And the same thing is true in the rental market, though the numbers are different. We have normally national average of about 8% of the rental units vacant, and we got up to over 12%. So we had too many housing units that were empty. I had a dream a couple of weeks ago. I dreamt I was sailing my boat, and through a navigational error, I ended up on a remote tropical island. So visualize white sandy beaches, palm trees swaying in the breeze. There are parts of this dream I cannot share with you tonight. But I can say that when the village chieftain heard that an economist had washed up on shore, he comes down to the shore and he says, Dr. Bill, you have to help us. The grass hut market is really lousy. You see, they all lived in grass huts. And apparently the price of grass huts was going down, and the guys who thatched the roofs for the grass huts, they were unemployed. So they had a real economic problem. And as we start going through the village, the chief is telling me that he's thinking about maybe regulating the guys who lend clams for the purchase of grass huts, or maybe starting a federal National Grass Hut Mortgage Association. And what did I recommend? Well, we've been going through the village, and I have been counting, and I've counted 100 families, 110 grass huts. And what's the solution to that? Now, I think of myself as a pretty smart guy, but I'm wondering, is there a financial engineering solution, a regulatory solution, a new kind of mortgage product that solves the problem of 100 families, 110 grass huts? Finally, I said, Chief, do you guys know how to use fire? So, end of the dream. Let's get back to reality. Here in the United States, we don't use fire to get rid of excess housing outside the city of Detroit. But what usually happens if we get a little bit too much housing is our population grows to fill the space that we've built. And I thought at the beginning of the housing crisis that it would take a year, 2 years at the max for us to grow to fill the space that we'd built. But that's not happening. And a couple of things have limited our ability to use all that housing. First is population growth has actually slowed down. Young couples are delaying having children, and having children certainly triggers the need for more houses. We've verified that empirically in the Conerly family. And in addition, we have an out-migration of some of our immigrant workers. Now, net-net, more people are moving in than moving out. But usually there are a lot of people moving in and only a few moving out. What has happened is many of our immigrant workers lost their jobs in construction and manufacturing, and we now have a big out-migration matching the big in-migration, and net-net, not a lot of gain. So we have less population growth, and for the population that we do have, fewer housing units are being used by this given number of people. So as an example, the Wall Street Journal reported that in the recession, the divorce rate went down. Couples couldn't afford to split up. Doesn't that bring a tear to your eye? Two people with a common goal, splitting up, and they can't afford to. The Journal also reported that some folks were getting divorced but continuing to live in the same household. Well, I don't have any experience with dating after divorce. I've heard it's challenging, but it must be really tough when you bring home your date and there's your ex sitting on the couch. So in addition to families not splitting up and using more houses, there's another reason why we're not absorbing as many housing units as our population dictates. And this is the bad one. This is the ugly one. This is the awful one. It's happened in our family, and I bet it's happened in some of your families. What is it? Yeah, you're right. Adult children moving back home, if you call 22 and 23-year-olds adult. But kids who ought to be out in apartments have moved back home, and it's happened all the time. I've got some advice. We have dealt with that problem in the Conerly household. What I did when my son was having trouble getting a job is I simply made his life so miserable that he wanted to get out of the house very badly. he did the same thing for me. So what we have now is a disconnect from the normal connection of population housing demand, and I've done a lot of regional economic studies and I just look at population housing demand. Now it's not population, it's employment housing demand. Those kids need jobs in order to get their house, their own house or apartment. So what's the outlook here? We're seeing slow improvement in housing statistics. It's beginning in apartments, and it's going to slowly migrate to single families. But until we get really strong job growth, we're not going to have a healthy housing market. And that really strong job growth is at least a year away and maybe 2 years away. And in the meantime, just inching forward improvement in the housing market.